East Haddam monologue. In this one I was playing the character of Sam, and it's written by Adam Simkovich. This monologue I left till last for the reason of it being the least useful to me in terms of drama schools and unis where I was auditioning to. Self-tape wise and even face-to-face auditioning, this is the least helpful one. For example, for RADA, I needed 2 classical monologues and 1 contemporary. As I've said on previous videos, the Rare Birds monologue was my first choice contemporary, and the reason for that is because I felt it was a stronger piece. It shows my versatility as an actor, and it shows how I can get into an emotion and tell the story of a character without context, and if they've never read the play before, they'll understand what this character's gone through. And again, with the birds, with the like, little bit about the birds, which is still in there, you can still kind of get an understanding of what that character is about. So that's why I put that one in front of East Haddam, in front of this monologue. I still enjoy this monologue. I feel that it's been a bit different. It's had a kind of comedic side to it, which none of my other monologues do have. So it's still quite a strong monologue, and that's why I've chosen it for monologue rep. Again, as I said, after my read-through in the explanation video, it's got a comedic side to it, which none of the other pieces have, and that's why I think that it's good for my monologue repertoire to have one which is a little bit different. This one was, when I was reading through it, because I've not worked on it the most, I've done 3 takes. I've done the read-through, I've done a rehearsal, and then the final cut, the final take, which I did at college. The read-through, I wanted movement in this one because there weren't a lot of movement in the other pieces, and that's something that I tried to do throughout this entire development of this piece. It was because, again, for that variety and that showing my versatility, which is a target I've worked on for a while, and showing that difference through a monologue, just a 2-minute piece, showing how I can be a different actor and all of that, like, difference, if that makes sense. The physicality wise is what I've worked on a lot, because vocality and vocally in my performances I can show the difference. Hence the classical performances, I can do it to a stage. In Rare Birds, in that monologue, I can be very somber and solemn towards, like, I can have a different tone, and that can be picked up quite easily. And that again links with my stage and screen target as well, showing the difference between both of them. So yeah, this one I wanted a bit of movement to be in, whether that's like physically moving my my entire body, like with a different kind of gait, a different walk from one side of the screen to the other, or it be like arm gestures. That's what I picked when doing my rehearsal. I picked more arm gestures, and even though I weren't fully rooted to the spot as I was in Rare Birds or in some of my classical pieces, I still had a bit of movement in there, which I felt was really, really important for the piece. In terms of the arm gestures, it was not to the point of a stage, like to the point of my classical, because again I wanted to show that difference. I wanted to show the classical being upwards and outwards, whereas this one, my chin was down a little bit, my shoulders were in slightly more. Again, it works with screen, and also it's not a classical performance, therefore I wouldn't be doing some of those classical physicalities that I've done previously in some of my monologues. The main bit of feedback that I got from this piece was to not just read it out. Vocally, it was still there, like it was good, but it felt quite repetitive. It felt like I was always going back to the main point. So in the monologue, I go on about how to be alone. That's the context of the monologue, which again I'll have said in my explanation of the piece. But he's saying how to be alone, and on the first rehearsal of it, previous to that, as I was walking into the screen studio to record it, I was just thinking about getting that comedic aspect and focusing on the physicality and everything that I've just previously talked about just then. But what I didn't think about, which was my feedback for the piece, was going through the story, which I did in, say, Rare Birds, showing that story of the character, how the character goes on a journey. And that was both physically and vocally, and even psychologically, like, as the character, because I was focusing too much on the words and the monologue itself, and hitting the points that it needed to hit to make it funny. That wasn't or shouldn't have been the aim, and it's something that I'm now aware of, and that I'll do, like, when coming to more monologues. I need the emotion to just be normal. So, like, this character's talking about how to be alone, but never actually explains or never goes into the psychological detail that this character is alone, and he's been alone his entire life. He has a routine on being alone. He doesn't even bother showering. He does this, that, and the other. So, yeah, showing that, and then also showing the sadness aspect to the monologue was very, very important for this. With the certain lines, and the first paragraph being about the good things about not actually seeing anyone and being alone, how easy it is. Just don't get into a relationship. It's that easy. And then talking about loneliness, yeah, that can happen. On the first rehearsal, it was just loneliness, yeah, that can happen, but this, that, and the other. But going back to the point of it being a good thing, and that does make sense, because when people are doing that in real life, if it's a uncomfortable subject or it's something that they don't want to talk about, they won't talk about it. They'll keep going off and back to the main point, the main question, so that it's easier for them, it's more comfortable. And that, I think, I did show in my first piece, that kind of thought, flicking back to the original idea of the question, how to be alone. But in the second piece, and the feedback that I worked on, like, through JMR, and I fully agreed with it, was that even, for example, the loneliness bit, that never changed level. It was all on one level, the rehearsal. So on the final take, which was the take just after, I had a little moment, and if the eye contact was this way, and I was talking to someone, and I was like, how to be alone? Well, you just don't get into a relationship, shower or don't. When I was talking about the uncomfortable subject, which is the loneliness, yeah, that can happen. Or talking about the pining after someone who's completely unattainable, removing that eye contact, changing that eye line, looking a bit down, looking literally to the other side as he's in his own head, the character this is. And I feel letting go of that emotion and just doing it and not holding back and being free in the acting and not being caught up on the acting, being caught up on the character instead of the lines and the words, and focusing on that. I think that's all that needed to be changed with the monologue, and that actually made it funnier. It made the audience actually relate to the character a bit more. That's how I felt when I watched it anyway. And again, the people who were in the studio at the time, my peers, they fully agreed as well. So yeah, the development on this one was about psychologically being in the character, which would then help me just move physically and have everything on point, which I needed to have correct. So yeah, that's East Haddam. That's my development to that. If I could do it again, I'd probably work on knowing the monologue more. That's just a self improvement thing. Because I didn't focus on this one as much, it was quite rushed, I felt. And if I had more time to do it, I think I could actually make this quite a good monologue and make the quality of it a lot better and a lot more so you can see the thought process of the character. That's just a personal thing which I'll take into future monologues, future characters, to not rush them. But again, that was the reason with this one. It was just that it was at the bottom of my list in terms of priority for drama schools and universities that I'm auditioning to. But yeah.